All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. I had intended on talking about this yesterday because I had a great weekend. I hope you had a great weekend too, by the way. Good Lord's Day, good everything. I had a great weekend in general. Good Lord's Day, of course. You know, the Lord's Day is almost always good. But then on Saturday, my son, and all my sons actually, except for the brand new one, they all had Little League opening day. There is nothing so pure and wholesome and just nostalgic and wonderful. Even the smells that you smell, the sounds that you hear, even the little cheers. I remember when I was a kid cheering for my friends. You know, when they would be up to bat, we'd have different cheers. You know, and it was the same thing. It's just nothing has changed. It's just Little League is just, it's like stuck in the 50s. It's just amazing. It was so much fun. My oldest son, this was his first year in like real Little League, like after T-ball, you know, and he gets up to bat. I'll play the video at the end of this one. He gets up to bat and his very first at bat. And the way they do it is the coaches pitch the first 2 innings and then the kids pitch the second 2 innings, the last 2 innings. And so he gets up to bat and his very first at bat, he gets an RBI. He gets on base. He's so excited. And then he scores a run, and it's just amazing. And then the second at bat versus a kid, again, he makes good contact. You know, he's not, you know, he's still gaining his confidence. So he's still learning how to swing harder and stuff like that. But to make contact on both at bats, especially one with a kid pitcher, he got thrown out. And, you know, we're still working on attitude, of course. He got thrown out. He was very disappointed. And apparently my mom tells me that when I used to get thrown out, I would get very disappointed as well. So he's definitely my son. We're working on it, though. But just a wonderful thing. It's very satisfying as a father to see your child kind of grow and improve and things like that. A year ago, this kid was afraid of the ball. Like, he was just scared of the ball, deathly afraid. And this year, he's up there and he's batting and he's doing well. He got plunked in the head, actually, in the helmet by a kid pitcher in practice the other day. And a year ago, he would have fallen apart. This year, he shook it off right away and got right back in the batter's box. I mean, it's just so satisfying. Being a father is just so wonderful. I'll play the video of his first hit at the end of this one, but we are going to get right back into this. This is so remarkable. You know, if you watched the video yesterday, obviously I had a lot of commentary based on my own experience and stuff like that. I've had at least 3 conversations that were just like the conversation that these 2 pastors had with Acts 29. In fact, I've had a conversation with someone from Acts 29 before about this. It was like a low-level guy, a regional kind of New England guy that was dispatched my way. And, you know, to be honest, I'm not exactly even sure why he was dispatched my way, but he was. And we met and we had a conversation that was just like this conversation. I was never involved with Acts 29, but clearly I was having some kind of an impact on people that were involved in Acts 29. There'd be really no reason for him to be dispatched my way to try to get me to shut my mouth, which is what the call was about, or the meeting was about. He wanted me to shut up. And I think they do this. Like, at the time, I was very tame. I had very mild criticisms and stuff like that. I was very winsome and reasonable in my opinion, just like these 2 guys are. They're reasonable. I think what they do is they try to make you feel like you're like an evil person when you're reasonable but making critiques, because they don't want you to turn into me. They don't want you to turn into what I turned into, someone that's actually, you know, got some oomph behind their criticisms. And it works. This kind of thing, this kind of strategy to make you feel like you're some kind of evil sinner for daring to question them, to even question them. That's something that they do all the time. So if you're involved in one of these big Eva groups or networks or ministries, you got to be ready for this. This call will happen to you at some point if you don't toe the line. If you do toe the line, then there's really no hope for you. You're just a sycophant. But if you don't toe the line, you're going to be on the receiving end of a phone call like this. And that's why this content is important, because you need to be prepared for the kinds of manipulations that they're going to throw your way. Because this call, these 2 guys here, Brandon and I think it's Brian is the other guy. This is a master class in how to manipulate people. They're manipulators. They're not leaders. They're manipulators. All right, let's continue on that note.
I mean, I guess that's the way it works.
Let me ask a pragmatic question, just because, one...
Before we get into it, let me just say this. if you have the ability to get your hands on this flavor, toasted coconut by Polar Seltzer, this is hands down the best seltzer water I've ever had. It's like every time you drink it, you feel like you're on vacation. It's just wonderful. A lot of coconut flavored seltzers, they taste like suntan lotion smells. This one doesn't really have that. I think the toasted part, it kind of smooths that out. It's really good, really good. Next level.
I'm really mad, and I'm afraid to talk because I'm afraid I'm going to say something, because right now I want to burn it down. That's where I'm at right now, just so you know. I feel like this is wrong. It's unfounded, and it's just mean. And
it sounds like he's not kidding, man. It sounds like he's not kidding. You hear what that brother said? He said that he's almost afraid to talk because he doesn't want to say something that he will regret, because right now he feels like he wants to burn it down. And let me say this, Acts 29 needs to be burned to the ground, metaphorically speaking, of course. Acts 29, the little club that they've got together, they're all vibing. Oh, yeah, this thing is irrelevant to the operations of the church. It's really just a thing that you send money to so that the leadership can stroke their own freaking egos. They don't let you see the bylaws. They don't want you to know how they operate. They want to operate in secrecy. You want to know where the money's going? Get in line. Shut your mouth. That's what they think. You want to know how we operate? You want to know what you want to see? You want to read the bylaws? Like, you don't even need to be in leadership. You just want to read the bylaws, get out of here, and get back in line. That's how they operate. This is the kind of thing that was allegedly Mark Driscoll's huge sin that they had to get rid of him for. It's this kind of thing. This is the thing. And, it's just like, this guy's obviously emotional right now. He's angry, and he should be, because this is ridiculous. Now, of course, he's never seen the bylaws, so I guess he doesn't, at least as far as I know, they can operate this way. If they just want to kick you out because they don't like your face, they can kick you out. But is this how Christians behave? No, this is not how Christians behave. This is not how it's supposed to be. You should at least tell them something. Remember, there's no evidence at this point. None. There's no evidence that they've got this pattern of whatever it was. I'll get my notes in a second. The constant public criticism and all that. And then they ask for evidence. He's like, no, we're not there. We're not there. We don't got no evidence. He's mad. He's furious. He thinks this is not right, and it isn't right.
And you guys have to live with that, not me. But I've got men in my cohort that I love and I've invested a lot of time into. So pragmatically, am I on the hook just to pay for this upcoming trip I have in 2 weeks?
No, not at all. Not at all. And Matt, I totally understand why you feel the way you do.
I don't think you do. I don't think you do. That's fine. Okay, you can say that.
I don't. Matt, perhaps I don't.
Yeah, you don't. You don't. You absolutely do not understand. Because if you did understand, you would have been ready with evidence. You would have been ready with an example. And again, nobody's saying you need to show me an example of the pattern, the constant nature of the criticism. Just show me one. It's constant, so it should be quite easy to find one. Just show me one. And you can't. So you don't understand. This is a power play for you. He's like, oh, well, you're not on the hook for that money. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, my lord. I'm not on the hook for the money. You're just very generous. You are a kind master. You're a kind master.
I don't mean to, yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
But let me say this if I may. No, you're not on the hook for that financially, and I'm sure you can have a conversation with Justin Anderson as to how, what next? What happens next practically with that cohort? I'm sure you can have that conversation with him.
Okay.
And the fact you want to burn things down, I get that. That's between you and the Lord. What you do there with that.
Not only should Acts 29 be burned metaphorically to the ground, But these people need to be exposed for what they are and how they operate. These people operate like pagan women. Not even godly women, like pagan women. That's how they operate. And they operate, and again, this is not like an isolated incident. It's not just like two losers that are just operating like losers. No, this is standard fare Big Eva operations. Your favorite Big Eva institution operates this way, most likely. Big Eva needs to be destroyed. Acts 29 needs to be destroyed. It needs to become an ash heap, a stench. That's what it needs to become. Does that mean that if your church is involved with Acts 29 that they're evil? No, it does not mean that. It does not mean that. What it does mean, though, is that Acts 29 is more a force for evil than it is for good. Acts 29 is more a force for evil than it is for good. I don't care about your missional orientation if you treat your brothers and sisters in the Lord like this. I don't care if your theology is pretty good if you treat your brothers and sisters in the Lord like this. All of the theology in the world, all of the teaching, all of the missional mindsets accounts for nothing if you don't have the basic, like the baseline love to treat your brothers with any kind of semblance of Christianity. You've demonstrated that you do not here. I encourage you to listen to this entire podcast because these two guys explain some of the context here and some of the reasons why they were so surprised by this. Because like one day everything's fine, like we understand there's tension, but we love you. We're in the network. We don't have to agree on things. And then literally the next day, they get this phone call. He's like, yeah, it's like a pattern of, yeah.
When was this decision made?
This decision was, it's been in process for a little while, a couple of weeks, but it was, our senior leaders met in Los Angeles 2 weeks ago and had the conversation. Our board met last week and finalized the decision, approved the decision.
And just to be so if I were to communicate to the cohort I'm in, I'm not coming because Acts 29 kicked us out. And they go, why? What happened? What do you want me to tell them?
So these guys are like asking every which way they can think of. Like, can you give me some detail? You've given me nothing. You've given me absolutely nothing. And they're asking every which way they can think of how this happens. And I hope you caught what was just asked too, and asked and answered. When was this decision made? Well, this decision has been in process for a couple of weeks, he said, and we finalized the decision, whenever he said, like yesterday or whatever. At no point in this decision-making process did they reach out to them and say, hey, we're concerned with your tone, we're concerned with this, and we're just not sure we can continue in the network. If you continue this, what say you? And then these guys could have been like, yeah, we value being in the network more than criticizing you, in private calls, so we're going to stop. Or, we value the network more than we value our ability to be online. Or they could say, okay, that's okay. We could have a nice friendly parting of ways. I don't think it makes sense for us to continue in a network where any kind of disagreement is viewed as tension and a pattern of combative behavior. That's the line, a combative behavior pattern. And we don't want to be in that network. And then it could have been like a respectful, that could have truly been a Paul and Barnabas moment. That's what a Paul and Barnabas moment is. You talk it out and you say, philosophically, this is not worth it for me to continue. And you say, you know what? I agree. It's not worth it for us to continue. Let's part ways. That's an actual Paul and Barnabas moment. This loser over here, because he's a slimy manipulator, said, oh, it's a Paul and Barnabas moment. Meanwhile, they haven't told you even once that there's a potential for this split. They've just been talking about it amongst themselves like a bunch of girls, pagan girls at the cafeteria table in high school. That's what Acts 29 is. It's the in crowd at the cafeteria, and they're all wearing their little dresses. And they all talk like women, and they all manipulate the way a pagan woman would manipulate. You know what you did. Everyone in the comment section instantly recognized that. Is that when you're arguing with a woman who's kind of in her emotional state, she won't tell you what you did. You know what you did. And the fact that you might not know, that's actually further proof that you're guilty.
Tell them what you like, but the reason that we're giving you has been a pattern of combative and critical postures.
Tell them what you like, but what I wrote down with my lawyer is the pattern of, it reminds me, you remember in The Office where Jan and Michael go to that deposition, and, on the way there, Michael is practicing what to say. Like Jan gave him the statement. It's like a pattern of disrespectful behavior. It's like, that kind of thing. And then when they get to the deposition, he says it exactly the same way. And the lawyer says, well put. The lawyer wrote that statement. It's the same thing here. You tell them whatever you want, but tell them that what we said is the pattern of combative, disrespectful behavior. And it's just like, man, like, you can't even do me the courtesy of telling me in your own freaking words. You had to write it down in verbiage, and it's probably very carefully selected verbiage. Let's just be honest about that. It's just so weaselly and slimy, and it's just not how you treat brothers. It's not. There's nothing more disrespectful when you're talking to someone who's allegedly your brother, who's allegedly your friend, and he lawyers you to death. It's just so disrespectful.
In the way you communicated theological things, both inside and outside of Acts 29.
So
did you catch that? He added something. So we've got more window into this. The way you've communicated theological things both inside and outside Acts 29. So now it's not only is it a regular public critique and an overall posture of it, not only is it the tension that just exists, kind of the ambiguous tension and the private conversations that have been had. Not only is it subtle critiques of Acts 29, whatever the freaking world that means. Not only is it a pattern of combative behavior, but now it's also the way that you present theological things, both inside and outside Acts 29. And so, now we're 20 minutes into the call. We're starting to get a picture of this. This is what it boils down to. We're sick of your faces. We're sick of what you do, and now you're out. That's it. And we're not going to give you any evidence. We're not going to give you any examples, because if we did give you examples, it would be way too easy to find people that we aren't sick of that do the same things that you do, but we want to keep them in the club. That's why there's no examples coming, because it'd be all too easy to say, oh, Matt Chandler does that. And they want to keep Matt Chandler in the club. We're not sick of him. We're sick of you.
Pattern of combative and what, critical? Okay.
And Chase, you tell them what you want. Please don't feel like I'm imposing upon you what you need to say. I appreciate the question.
Right.
I trust you to say what you want.
You're such a nice guy. Please don't feel like I'm imposing on you. You're very generous. It's a kind master, generous master.
No, I know. We have a responsibility as pastors to represent things as truthfully as possible, and I'm failing to be able to find words, and I'm going to trust the Holy Spirit to give me words which wouldn't impugn your network.
One of these guys didn't know that this recording was even happening. The other one did. The other one didn't. And God bless you two brothers, man. You're acting like men. Because I would imagine, and this is just I don't know this. I didn't talk to these guys. I would imagine that nothing would feel better than to just let these two have it, hang up the call, and move on. But what they're thinking of, instead of thinking of feeding their flesh, which would be all too easy to do, they're actually thinking about their responsibility before other people. and they're just at a loss because they haven't been given anything concrete. And so they want to go back, and you could tell he's probably writing it down, a pattern of combative behavior. He's probably writing it down because he wants to get it right, because he wants to present the situation to his church and to the people that he's accountable to the way he was told, because he can't put it into his own words because he hasn't been given anything besides the lawyer speak that this guy has presented him. And the fake crocodile tears from the black guy. I love you, bro. I ain't got no evidence, but I love you. I believe it. I ain't come to you with I don't believe it. So instead of feeding his flesh, instead of get flying off the handle, what he does instead is he's like, okay, so can you tell me again so that I can write this down so that I could tell them what you said? And this guy, he almost hesitates to tell him again because I think he knows he's writing it down now, and he wants to make sure that he's got the right exact thing. So he's probably flipping through his his note from his lawyer. To what do I say again? I can't put it in my own words. It's a pattern of it's the Michael Scott thing.
Because at this point, you've given me no evidence. Other than that, if you don't like the posture we're taking, that's a legitimate thing. I don't like the posture you guys take, not you personally, the network.
We get it.
So
that is legitimate. And again, I have a feeling, and these guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a feeling if they just say, I just don't like how you operate. Sick of you, sick of your posture, and it's just not a fit for the Axe29 network, and so you're kicked out. I have a feeling they would have still been mad, but at least they could understand. At least it would make somewhat sense to them.
that's fine, but I've never viewed that as a reason. That's why we haven't broken fellowship. We're trying to walk the high road here. We're trying to be as faithful as we can with the money we've invested, the relationships we've built. And then unilaterally, in some meeting of people that we don't know, somebody doesn't like either me personally or Matt personally, somebody's suspicion is reached a threshold where it's irrecoverable and irreconcilable between brothers.
This is such a good... Hold on, let me let him finish. I'm sorry for interrupting there.
Brought to my attention or Matt's attention before this meeting.
It was never brought to their attention.
And now, unilaterally, we get summoned.
Okay, let me stop there. You could again, you can kind of hear him lay it all out here. And this reminds me of something that I said, too. It's I never consider... He goes, I don't like your posture. You don't like my posture? I can understand that. You don't want me to be in your club anymore because you don't like my posture? I can understand that. I don't like your posture. But the difference is, I never thought that difference in posture was a big deal. I never thought it was something we need to part ways. We need to break fellowship about. And as far as I'm concerned, this is what he said. As far as I'm concerned, you never thought that either, because we've talked about this before, but you've never brought any problems to my attention. This is news to me that this was even being talked about, even being discussed. It's sure, I knew that there were some tension, but no one ever told me that it was a problem. You know what I mean? No one ever told me that this was an issue because this is completely new to me. And again, these guys are the adults in the room because they didn't bring that, they never broke fellowship with these guys over this. And it wasn't a big enough deal for them to even bring it to them. And these guys, this whole time, have been harboring this secret animosity, and it's just been under the surface, and they've been smiling in their faces while boiling on the inside about their posture, as effeminate as that sounds. That's really what's going on here. And now they're just kicking him out with no, not a word, not anything, no conversation. I remember myself saying, look, you don't agree with me on social justice. That's fine. I don't agree with you on social justice either. I think we can still be friends. Why do we have to part ways now? Like even my co-elders, okay, you don't agree with some of the stuff that I do, but so that's very clear. You think that, but I can still work with you. Why can't you work with me? There's no answer coming to that. There's no answer, obviously. But that's what he said here. He's kind of laid it all out here. And again, these two are the adults in the room. These guys are acting like children, female children.
There's been conversations in meetings. Dave and Donnie have had conversations. There's been conversations about seeking to understand. But I'm hearing you guys say you're upset and frustrated. Well, there's a lot of people that are frustrated as well with the combative public critique of the network.
You keep saying public, but it's not public.
This is the thing. This is the thing about this. This guy's over here. He's back on us talking point, obviously. And this guy called him out on the talking points. Not public. What are you talking about? And he said, you guys are obviously upset and frustrated. That's very clear. On this call, they're upset and frustrated. And then he goes, but there's a lot of people, y'all. You know, there be people behind the scenes, y'all. And, they be frustrated too, dog. And it's like, okay. I'm sure there are. But you see, the difference is, we're frustrated and we're telling you to your face we're frustrated. You guys have been frustrated behind the scenes for nobody knows how long because nobody said anything about it. That's the difference. Again, this guy's not the sharpest tool in the shed, so he reveals too much here. He reveals too much. This has been an ongoing thing, according to this guy, and people have been frustrated behind the scenes, but nobody had the courage. Nobody had the love. Nobody had the audacity or the balls to tell them about it. These guys are frustrated, and they told you. You guys have been frustrated for how long? Talking behind their backs about, their combative public behavior, and nobody said word one to them about it. What's that about? What's that about?
Right? I mean, like,
your social media stuff is what, when I say public, that's what I'm talking about. The open critique constantly of the network.
But that's not there. You don't have any receipts of that because it's not there.
I'm concerned about the open public critique constantly. That's what he said. Constantly. Again, he's a little bit off talking point now, but he's still saying, he's harping on the same thing. And this guy directly challenges him. I know you've said that, but it's not there. And that's why you can't show me any receipts. Now, what is the obvious thing to do here? The obvious thing to do is to have receipts, number one. But he's directly challenging the truthfulness of your statement. He's saying you are lying. You say it's there. It's not there. If it was there, here's what you should do. Chase, I will get you the receipts. I will show you what I'm talking about. I will show it to you because I love you and I care about you. Give me a few days. Give me a week. Give me whatever time you need. I will show it to you. That way, you will know what I'm talking about. We might not agree, but at least you'll know that I'm not lying. That's not what's going to happen, though, obviously.
Okay.
No, I'm serious. I'm like, that's what I'm happy to concede that point if it were there.
Okay.
And I'm racking my conscience and my memory to try to go through what I've done and what I've said, and these are the consequences of my actions, I suppose. I'm really baffled by the public critique part. If it's just like,
so instead of saying, I'll get them for you, and maybe we just disagree on what's a critique. Maybe we disagree on what's the word public. I mean, after all, what depends on what the definition of is. Instead of that, he goes, okay. He's beaten. He knows he's beaten. He knows he's got nothing because he knows the minute he shows him what he's talking about, it's going to be so petty. It's going to be so petty and so easy to show when Matt Chandler did the same thing, or maybe even he himself did the same thing. It's going to be too easy to do that. He can't show him receipts because then he could be held to account. You see, that's the point of this. This is a rebuke that you can't be held to account about. This is something that Big Eva does all the time. This is why Big Eva never names names. You notice that? They'll put out their critique, but they rarely name names. But you know who it's about, but they don't name him because they don't want to be held to account. It's impossible to tell if they're bearing false witness if they don't give you the specific example. See, when I tell you Russell Moore is a slimy little lying snake, or that Brandon here is a slimy little snake, or that this guy's lying, I'll tell you their name so you can go check the receipts on it. You can go check and see, make sure that AD is telling the right thing. That's the difference between an adult and a child.
Match 29 doesn't like being questioned or critiqued in private conversations. Well, and y'all decided to kick us out because of that.
I hope I've communicated that your questions don't equal critique, and your questions can be valid. Everything you asked is not that, of course not.
Yes. Again, this guy's not the sharpest tool in the shed. He's off message here because he was just provided an opportunity to take that and run with it and say, yeah, well, it is a critique. We're sick of it. We're sick of that. That's the tension I'm talking about, y'all. No, but instead he goes, no, that's not what it is. So he's told you what it isn't. He hasn't told you what it is, though. He's told you what it isn't, but he hasn't told you what it is.
You guys aren't evil.
Right.
Nobody's calling evil here. However, this is a John Mark Paul moment. I don't see us going together any further, and nor does X29 in terms of leadership and from the posture and
this guy. I mean, he can't put a sentence together. Who is this guy? He sounds like he has a 30 IQ. He can't put a sentence together. What he just said makes no sense. I understand it's emotional, and I get that. When you're emotional, it's hard to put sentences together. But the thing is, like, these guys were pre-prepared. That was part of the reason why they gave this surprise meeting, because when you're given a surprise meeting, you have the advantage of preparing ahead of time what you're going to say and what you want to get across, and these guys just have to shoot from the hip, and it's a tactical advantage. That's why they did that, because they're slimy. But these guys are putting coherent sentences together. Yeah, sure, they're stumbling over their words a little bit, but that's how it is. This guy has prepared for this conversation, and he sounds like an idiot. Because in terms of leadership, like it's a John Paul moment, John Mark Paul moment, and like it's not. We're not saying you're evil, but like,
look, criticisms and things that you say aren't public criticisms, but I would collectively say, from social media to anything. But don't hear an evil call. Don't hear some "you guys are demonic" call.
What is this guy talking about?
And this is it doesn't. We're not compatible with in terms of how you guys have criticized and said those things.
Well, but you're not. But there's no specific. There's that's what's baffling. Is like, let's use the word missional. That's a big word that Acts 29 uses and we use. And we've been trying to figure out how to do missional better. So I started a podcast to try to talk with people about how to think more clearly about missional. I've asked questions. Hey, is this what missional means? I critiqued Russell Moore and Dave French publicly. I do that. They're not part of the network. My efforts to try to gain clarity and articulate a vision for the church has led to somebody not liking what I say. I mean, Dave, it was whether you were right or wrong when you messaged me, it revealed a lot. It revealed a heck of a lot. When I'm getting a message on Facebook at midnight from a VP of a global network because I critique Russell Moore, who's not a pastor in our network. He's just a thought leader. And the fact that you took that so personally, that told me a lot. And I found it really disappointing because
I remember feeling this exact same way. I was completely baffled. That's a great word. When Jared C. Wilson took personal offense to my criticism of Russell Moore. And again, at the time, my criticism of Russell Moore was tame. And it was very clear to me that he took personal offense to my criticism of Russell Moore. And I asked him, I said, I don't get this. Like, I understand he's your friend, but I thought we were friends too. And so I don't agree with him, and you take it like as if I attacked your daughter or something, like or your dog or like your wife. Like, I didn't do anything to you. I didn't even criticize you. There was lots of things to criticize about Jared C. Wilson, but I was of the opinion that he was a friend, not an enemy, so I didn't critique him. But I critique Russell Moore, and you jump out of bed to like just reprimand me, and I was so baffled by that. It made no sense, but it was very revealing. It was very revealing on where I really stood with Jared Wilson. I was his friend so long as I didn't, compromise or disagree with some of the things he believed. I mean, that's just that it was just that simple. I remember feeling this way, man. Like this is exactly how I felt. And he's bringing that up because he thinks that's really what this is about. It's about that kind of thing. And I think that they do reveal that Russell Moore critique was a big part of this, and you'll see why in a minute. Here we go.
I know that heart. I used to have that heart with Tim Keller. If people in my church criticized Tim Keller, I'd be like, who are you? Tim Keller's amazing. And so I understand that heart.
By the way, I will be talking about Tim Keller and his death and his legacy on the channel. I'm just waiting a little bit. I'm going to probably do it on Friday. So people are asking me. I'm definitely going to do it. It's a complicated thing for me. But yeah, I'll do it in the old AD style.
This is not a John, like y'all want to compare it to that's fine. Y'all can try to put that scripture on this situation and y'all can kick us out and y'all have all the power, and that's apparently in the bylaws that none of us are allowed to see. But any of these critiques.
You see how you did that? You see how you did that? You see how you did that?
That we're not allowed to see the bylaws.
You see how you did that? You see how you did that?
No, tell me. I'm not trying to be mean.
This man thinks with emotions. This man thinks with emotions. He makes an off-the-cuff thing, and I guess you guys can do this according to the bylaws that we're not allowed to see. And yo, you see right there? Yeah, he did it right there. You see how you did that? You see how you did that? And then like you think he's about to explain what he's talking about, right? He's about to say that's the kind of thing we kicked you out for. That's what you think he's about to say, but he doesn't. He just goes, you see that? You see how you did that? And you're just supposed to get it. Like that's exactly that private comment to me is what I'm talking about by public criticism. Like you're supposed to just he's trying to transfer his emotions to you. He thinks with his heart. He doesn't think with reasonable he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. You see what you did there? You just that right there. That's what I'm talking about. It's that public critique. See, there it is right there. Public. This is a private conversation. It's public now. Thank God that this is public now.
Chase, let me go back to the conversation about Russell Moore.
This guy is sharp. And so he saves him. He saw what he was about to do. He saw that he was about to, that's why you were kicked out. And then it was going to be way too easy for these guys over here to be like, right, but this is a private comment that I made to you. And I don't even see why this is that divisive, to be honest. And so he jumps in and he saves him because he saw that this guy was over here and he's got, it's like in The Simpsons. You remember in The Simpsons where like Homer's supposed to be thinking of something very intently, but in his brain it's just that monkey that's like ding 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 like that. That's what this guy's doing right now.
Yeah, Russell Moore does attend one of our churches. You probably don't know that. He's a member of Emmanuel in Nashville, which is fine.
Boom, right there. That's it. That was what he's talking about, the Russell Moore thing. Because if you were carefully listening to Chase, and again, this is an emotional conversation, so sometimes you don't hear everything that your conversation partner says, especially when it's in a heated kind of conversation. In that, he says, Russell Moore isn't even a pastor in our network. He's just a thought leader. Now, if you listen to that in context and you're not in an emotional state, what you hear is he's not a leader in this network. It's not like when I criticize him, I'm criticizing one of our guys, one of our, VPs, one of our pastors. No, he's just a thought leader in the network. What this guy heard was he's not even in Acts 29. So he jumped on that. He goes to one of our churches. I don't know if you knew that. That's exactly what he's talking about by the public critique of Acts 29. This guy criticized Russell Moore, he goes to a church in our network. That's not allowed. That's what he is basically saying here. That's not allowed. You can't critique the words of anyone in the network. But of course you can. He can't really say that because it'd be way too easy to turn that around on these guys. It would be way too easy.
But the public posture of going out and what I didn't care for was airing this out in front of everybody, a critique of another Christian leader regardless. I don't know. I didn't find that helpful. I mean, but that was my personal thing. That was not me speaking on behalf of Acts 29. That was not me doing anything but responding personally to you to say, hey, bro, what are you doing here? Like, help me understand. And you did that. You said, hey, there's another way other than the Keller-esque third way of being a little bit more direct and I felt like we had a good conversation. That wasn't Dave saying you can't do this anymore and I don't like you. That had nothing to do with any of that. It was me just saying, I don't understand what you're doing here, bro. I don't understand this need of critiquing even people that are not directly aligned with us, but are loosely aligned with us, and having that conversation in a public forum and using podcasts. And
you see, he's spilling the beans here. I mean, I think this guy's sharper than this guy, but he spilled the beans here. He even used some of the buzzwords. See, that's a public critique. It is about that Russell Moore thing. And it certainly seems like he's talking about a posture because they had a discussion and a heated conversation where he was like, well, publicly, critiquing in that way, in a more direct way than the Keller-esque kind of third way. That's like, where are you coming from, bro? Like, he certainly seems to be talking about a posture. What was it? A posture of regular public critique there. So you see, he doesn't want him to think it's about that Russell Moore thing. It is about that Russell Moore thing. It is. You're not allowed to do that, apparently.
To kind of do that. I don't understand that. It's a fine way of going about it. I'm not even saying it's morally wrong, but that's all that conversation was. It wasn't more than that. It does seem like there have been multiple conversations around that topic many, many times where we end up in the same place. Hey, I don't see what we're doing. I don't get it. We're going to keep doing it, but we just don't get it. And that's a little bit, you guys are bright dudes. You're super bright dudes. You're godly dudes. I get that. It just seems like we're at an impasse and I can't move forward here.
See, did you hear what he said again? He spilled the beans. He said, we've had multiple conversations about your approach, your posture, and we're at an impasse. We can't go forward, bros. This was so similar to something my co-elder said to me, where he said, he blindsided me with how he can't be a co-elder with me anymore. It's like past the point of no return and stuff like that. And I was like, man, like it's really that. It's like 0 to 60 in like five milliseconds. Like that seems like an overreaction. Like, this is the first time I'm hearing about this. Like, why does it go to we have to blow up the church because, like, why can't we talk this out? Let's talk this out. And he said, we've talked about this. That's what he told me. And I was like, what? We've talked about this? We definitely have not talked about this. Like, what do you want from me? We definitely not talked about it. What he meant were these, like, casual conversations where he was saying very similar stuff. He's like, I wonder, it's not wrong for you to do this. It's not like a sin or anything. Like, but like, I just wonder, like, what do you think? Like, what do you think the value of critiquing Russell Moore in a video is? Like, why do you do that? And I'd explain why I did that, and he would go, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And then maybe we'd have another conversation a few months later that was similar, very casual, it's like, no offense, like I just don't see the value of, because a lot of these guys are just against racism, and I would explain it. We'd have a nice conversation. Oh, okay, that's great. No, that's cool. I love you, brother. And then it was like, we got to blow up the church. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And in his mind, here's what was going on. Now that I've kind of had time to think about it and kind of process the whole conversations and the whole thing, what was happening was he would come to me casually and just like pick my brain on something from my perspective. But what was really happening was he was seething under the surface, but he has this idea that you can't show people that you're angry. That's sinful. So So he would go home and he would talk to his wife about how evil what I was doing was, but he never told me that. In fact, he would tell me the opposite. That's actually one of the lies I've caught him in. I have evidence of him saying something is not sinful, and then later he told me, no, it is. It's been sinful the whole time. And so he was lying to me. And then, but from his perspective, I should know that I'm sinning, even though he's never told me. And so he's talked to me about these things for months and months and months, but never has told me that there was a major issue or that he was considering leaving or nothing like that. It was all casual, friendly conversations, just two bros picking each other's brains. And then, but in his mind, that was him confronting me over sin the entire time, even though he never, ever said that. It's the same thing here. We've had conversations about like your approach and your tone, and we've kind of agreed to disagree, and it's been a friendly conversation. But the whole time he's harboring this, man, they are evil, but they're not evil. I'm not saying it's evil. We just got to do the John Mark thing. Paul, Barnabas, split ways. Even though they never told him that was even a consideration, that if you continue this way, maybe we'll have to part paths. Maybe we should reconsider. If you want to stay in the network, like maybe you should change your approach. Like any one of those things would have been great. That would have been nice, because maybe they would have just said, okay, maybe we should leave. Or maybe they would have changed. But instead, they're just like 0 to 60. It was about the Russell Moore thing. This man is lying. It's about that and a few other things.
Hey, just to go back, Doug, what did I do just then that is
It's where you said you guys won't let us see the
Oh,
Bible.
yeah. So this is great. So again, I commend these guys for how they've conducted themselves in this interview, or this conversation. He's not letting it go. He noticed that this guy was about to spill the beans, and this guy saved him because he knew. He's like, oh no, that guy's off script. And he saved him. But this guy, we listened to him, and he said, okay, let's go back to what you were about to say, because you were about to spill the beans. Well done, guys. An emotional conversation, and you conducted yourself with a lot of grace. You weren't wishy-washy, very clear-headed. I don't know that I could have been this clear-headed in a conversation like this, and I commend you. It's just hats off to you.
And so what they're saying is the fact our posture that the network's not sharing those things is not receiving their leadership, is how I would interpret that.
Is that?
No, that's not. No, I don't know. I don't want to speak for Doug, but everybody knows what John Needham's put online. Everybody knows what's seeing that. It felt like it felt like a little bit of a cut. And I get it. If it's a cut, it's a cut. If that's what it is, that's what it is. But anyway, guys,
He saved him. He didn't even let him answer. He said, I don't want to speak for him, but he did speak for him. This guy spoke for this guy because he knows this guy's a bit of a dope. Not very bright. This guy's not too sharp. And he asked him a direct question about, what were you going to say there about me asking for the bylaws? And you say, see right there, dog. It was that. That's what I'm talking about, dog. He didn't. The white dude didn't want this guy answering that question. So he said, I'm not going to answer for him, but then he goes ahead and does it. I hope it feels good, whatever your name is, to be a lapdog for the X-29 movement. You're a nice little lapdog for him.
Wait, this is not productive to talk anymore. I don't want to. This is heavy and hard, and I get all that.
He had enough of this conversation.
I get all that. I really do. I appreciate that. I don't want to cut short our time.
My co-elder did the exact same thing. He said, there's just no value in us talking anymore. And I said, with all due respect, I've told you and I've presented to you 4 ways that you've lied to me and lied about me. So I'd like to address those. And he said, it's just not, spiritually, I'm not ready. It's just not productive to talk anymore. And it's like, well, I'm sure it's not when you're caught in lies. He wants nothing more than to end this conversation because there's no evidence. There never will be. And they can't countenance being questioned in this way because, you guys aren't in the cool club anymore. You're not even at our lunch table.
I don't want to frustrate you guys further. I don't want to pile on anyway. So what's helpful here?
I don't know. I don't know if we're going anywhere. It's, for me, about 14 years just gone in a little call. That apparently there's men that planted my church who are on that leadership team who live a few miles from me that didn't have the balls to call me and tell me that they're thinking about this.
This is how Big Eva operates. Instead of going to you directly, they live next door. They live freaking next door. A few miles away, they planted our church. They know me. They've got my number. They know where I live. Instead of someone going to him and saying, hey, man, Chase, brother, like, this is hard, but, like, we're really concerned here. We've got a lot of concerns here. And, it's this public pattern of behavior. You could even say all the talking points, this and that, and we just don't know if it's going to be a fit, for us in the short term or the medium term or the long term or anything. Like, we're considering, like, maybe even removing you and having a conversation like adults, like a man. Instead of doing that, they have these secret meetings and they don't include you. They don't even give you a heads up. They talk about it. They let their little lapdog over here be like, yeah, dog, I saw that too, man. And it was like, I was like, oh man, this is heavy. This is how they operate, man. This is how they operate. Jared C. Wilson did the same thing to me. I remember one day I had written for his little blog, the For the Church blog. I had written a few articles, just nothing major, just like, about witnessing to Mormons, basic stuff, nothing controversial. One day I go there and I've been memory holed. All my articles have been deleted. And I asked him, I was like, why'd you do that? Like, what's the point of that? And he said, anyone who criticizes my friends is no friend of mine, and the way you treat brothers, and like, okay, can we talk about this? Like, maybe give me a call. Like, you have my number, can we chat about this? Nothing. Not a single phone call. Nothing. Nothing is done like a man does. Nothing is done like a Christian does. It's all done like some little girls. That's what it's done like. Pagans, not even Christian girls. Pagan girls. You guys live down the street. Like, I can't believe no one had the balls to just tell me, like, they're considering this, or we're worried about you, or this or that. My co-elder didn't have the balls to just tell me, like, I think you're sinning, bro. You gotta stop and let's talk this out. And I'm worried that maybe we can't even pastor together if we can't agree on this. Because then at least we can have some productive conversations. And if we do decide to part ways, if it's a true Paul and Barnabas moment, then it makes sense because both sides have been kind of abreast of the situation. Like, I'm pretty sure Paul wasn't telling Barnabas nothing. And then one day he's like, well, we just got to split. We got to split up. I mean, it was just a pattern of behavior. Like, no, it wasn't like that. They talked like men. They talked like men. This is Big Eve. This is how they operate. You need to understand that.
That hurts. And so, this is, I want you guys to know that I think this is wrong. It's unnecessarily hurtful. And I think it's bad leadership from the leadership of the network. No
question about that.
As somebody who sits on multiple boards myself, I'm extremely disappointed and saddened. That's where I'm at right now. So I just want to express that to y'all. I do love you guys. I love all the men that invested me in over time. And so extremely disappointed though. I'm really struggling to think of something where I've been this disappointed over in my whole entire life. And so that's for me to wrestle with. That's all I've got.
Chase,
What?
if you had something.
Oh, no. I mean, like, I'm disappointed. I mean, I echo Matt's emotions. I tend to sit on it and process it later. Right now, I'm annoyed by the unilateral nature of the decision without any conversations that would lead us to conclude that we were violating some thing that could get us into this position. that's really unchristian in my mind. That's not how we should treat one another. And obviously I take it from both your reactions with my mention of the bylaws. I understand that there's a perception of me that I will consider and take before the Lord regarding my own, personality and wiring and temperament, that I need to be sanctified. And you both have my number, and we're just really disappointed. This doesn't need to be this way, and we're perplexed as to how it got this way. And we'll see what happens.
And Chase, I'll be sure to, and of course you guys are free to talk to anybody you want in leadership. Please don't feel like you're restricted to just talk to me and Doug in this one conversation. We can talk further. But what I will, Matt, what I will communicate, the 3 points I heard you make that I will communicate to our leadership immediately is, you feel this is wrong, you feel this is unnecessary, and you feel like this is bad leadership. I'll make sure to convey those as I summarize this conversation with senior leaders. And again, you guys feel free to say and do whatever you want, of course. I trust in the Holy Spirit. You'll do that as he leads.
All right.
Guys, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks
Bye.
for the time.
Thank you.
See you.
All right. Well, there you go. There you go. It's very disappointing to hear it. I know this is how they operate. I've been on the receiving end of this. Many people I know have been on the receiving end of this. This is just standard Big Eva institutionalism. This is what they do. This is how they operate. So many of these leaders are not really good leaders, and so they just do these kinds of power plays. They're manipulative. This is their only tool set. They cannot get men to follow them in any other way besides manipulations, lies, and acting like freaking women behind the scenes. This is how they operate. But anyway, the reality is that this stuff can't continue. It's going to have to collapse in on itself, and we need to be ready with our own institutions that operate like Christians, that operate like men, our own institutions to take their place. Because though this does have the seeds of its own failure already baked into the cake, it's there, we need to be ready to take advantage of that. We need to be ready to replace it with something, because if we're not, it'll just be replaced by someone that's 10 times as bad as these two idiots over here. Bottom line. Bad leadership. This is beyond bad leadership. This is evil leadership. This is manipulative. It's gaslighting. It's the whole 9 yards. It's the whole 9 yards. This is effeminate men acting like women. That's what this is. Effeminate men acting like women. And one buffoon. That's what this guy's just a buffoon. In any case, that was kind of hard, but here is a video of my son getting his first Little League base hit to brighten up your spirits. God bless you. I hope you found this video helpful. God bless. Eyeing the ball, AJ! Stare at that ball, bud. Go, 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 go! Dig it out, dig it out, dig it out! AJ! Base hit, bud.